With no regrets, the Miami Hurricanes have reset. Forward progress is their concentration, their path brighter than a constellation. At least that is certainly the vibe as spring practice came to a close on Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium. The bulk of the Canes Nation had to watch on television due to COVID protocols as the offense, led by young quarterbacks Tyler Van Dyke and Jake Garcia, put on a show. Some saw it as a sign of great progress and the emergence of the quarterback room, that these two youngsters forming a foundation of a very bright future for the Miami offense. Others took note of a potential weakness on defense. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. What does the immediate future look like for the Canes with a season opening date with Alabama inching closer on the calendar? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight as we begin a new edition of CaneSport Live and wrap up spring practice. Hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, and we welcome you once again to CaneSport Live. As always, this is your show. It'll be driven by your participation. The call-in number is 563-999-3550. That's 563-999-3550. We have over 100 open phone lines, plenty of room for everybody to call in and participate. Those who have been with us before through the years, you know the drill. You hit the number 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. That puts you in the queue, and we bring you on the show in the order that you land in the queue. We once again ask subscribers at CaneSport.com to post topics and questions that they would like to hear discussed on tonight's show. A few good ones, and we will address them as we move forward here this evening. But before we get to your calls, I wanted to set the table a little bit and review in kind of rapid-fire fashion just where I felt things stood with the team as it exited spring practice. I mentioned the quarterbacks, so we might as well start with them. I think the general consensus is that Miami is heading in the right direction at the position, with D'Eriq King's rehab going really well, and with him on course to escalate his workouts sooner rather than later here. And then with Van Dyke and Garcia performing well in all 3 spring scrimmages. The surprise really was Garcia, who was cleared for full speed work a day before the first scrimmage and went out and really stood out with his arm and accuracy. Van Dyke was not quite as good throwing down the football field, but he was relatively accurate as well, and his experience showed. Garcia tends to take a few more chances, thus makes a few more mistakes. He was 50 of 70 for 589 yards in the 3 scrimmages. Van Dyke was 34 of 51 for 390. But he did have 5 touchdowns. Garcia had 4 touchdowns. So the stats weren't that different. But what you're seeing is the yardage totals for Garcia are a little bit higher than they were for Van Dyke. And that's because that he tends to throw the ball down the field a little bit more. But all of that is pretty good for a pair of freshman quarterbacks who are just learning what college football is all about. You've seen the euphoria amongst the fan base. People are really excited about the way these two guys performed. Some are even suggesting that maybe Manny Diaz should make Garcia or Van Dyke his starting quarterback this year and cast D'Eriq King to the side. I don't see that happening. D'Eriq King is a much more experienced seasoned college quarterback, number 1. And number 2, you cannot minimize for 1 second what that kid did for this program last year, coming off that 6-7 nightmare of Manny Diaz year 1, where the Canes lost to FIU and Louisiana Tech and Duke to end the season. And D'Eriq King came, put respectability back into the program, and they won 8 games last year. And no, it didn't go perfect. And yeah, they lost. They didn't compete very well against Clemson and North Carolina. So yeah, no, it was not perfect. But like I said, you cannot minimize in any way, shape, or form what D'Eriq King did for this program. And I don't see any way that these coaches are going to put him aside for one of the true freshmen unless he just physically is not right. And all signs are that his rehab from the ACL is coming along pretty good. All right, at running back, I think the fact that Don Chaney needs shoulder surgery, I mean, that's a clear setback, no doubt about it. I mean, Chaney was probably tracking toward claiming the starting job. I mean, you didn't hear any coaches say that. It's a true competition. But, you know, I really believe that Chaney has a slight edge over Jalen Knighton there in that regard. And I think Chaney might have emerged as the starter by Alabama. Now I don't think so. They're hoping he gets back for fall practice in August. But I think all those months of lost work, it's going to take him time to get into game shape. I don't see Chaney coming off the injured list with shoulder surgery and being a feature back to start the year. That would be pretty shocking if that happens. Jalen Knighton had a rock-solid spring. He had 43 yards in the spring game, 66 yards in scrimmage number 2. I think it was pretty obvious in the spring game that the coaches were focused on limiting reps for the backs to try to avoid further injuries. The running game really was not featured at all. So I think the questions here heading into the summer will be how quickly can Chaney get back, and also what kind of role can Cam Harris carve out for himself? That's a big question, okay? He had a highlight TD in the second scrimmage where he leaped over Gervin Hall into the end zone. Everybody loved it on YouTube and all that, but he only had 13 yards in limited reps on Saturday at Hard Rock in the spring game. So Lashley has said he wants a feature back who can potentially carry the ball 20 times. I'm not sure that this appears to be trending in that direction. Let's be honest. You know, you could force it. I'm not sure Knighton is built to do that. I'm not sure, like I said, that Chaney is going to be ready to do that. And if Cam Harris is number 3, which it looks like he might be, then why would you elevate him to number 1 and say, you go take it 20 times a game? So I love Lashley's intentions in this regard. I think they were sincere. I think they were well-founded. I thought last year that the running backs never seemed to be in a rhythm. I thought it hurt the running game at times. Love the idea of a guy knowing he's the dude and going out there and building as the game goes on and getting into that rhythm. But the way this is playing out right now, I'm not sure that we're not going to see something very similar to what we saw last year when they shared the rock. And unfortunately, nobody really got off after game 2. There was not a 100-yard rusher after the second week of the season. So we'll see what goes on there. Another position with a limited spring sample size was tight end. Will Mallory was held out, recovering from shoulder surgery. Dom Mammarelli was also held out due to shoulder surgery. And then newcomer Elijah Arroyo, he showed up with an old high school injury and also had surgery. So all 3 of them should be back for the fall, but the young guys in particular lost out on critical development this spring. And then to complicate matters more, like they really needed this at this position, Larry Hodges was suspended for a violation of team rules after an arrest incident that involved gun possession and marijuana. His future is uncertain at the moment, but it was learned in the last 24 hours that prosecutors have opted not to file charges. So that's a good development for Larry Hodges. In Dade County, they're shying away from small marijuana cases for obvious reasons. And that's going to benefit Larry Hodges here. And the firearms apparently belong to a friend or something, and they've worked through that. So I think Larry Hodges will come out of this okay, but it was a distraction for him and the team that nobody needed, and we'll see what happens with him moving forward. The receiver position saw the emergence of Charleston Rambo as a clear go-to option. We knew long before Saturday that Rambo he wasn't brought here to be a spectator. But his 6 catches for 56 yards in the spring game after 107 yards receiving in scrimmage number 2 supported that notion. And he clearly is going to be a starter alongside Mike Harley. Xavier Restrepo is the guy who made the biggest move this spring at receiver, showing up as a consistent standout at practices and scrimmages. And he clearly earned the role for this season. Coaches are also not giving up on Mark Pope and D. Wiggins. Both had every opportunity all spring, I would say with mixed results, to gain the confidence of the coaches. And we saw both Pope and Wiggins make a play in the spring game and also drop a football. So same inconsistent Pope and Wiggins, and we'll see what the future holds for them. Guy they better watch out for is Keyshawn Smith. He looks like he's right on the cusp of breaking through and emerging like so many of us have been expecting. Maybe that happens over the summer. Maybe that happens in fall camp. The offensive line was one of the more interesting positions to watch this spring, with starting competition at left guard and right tackle. Jalen Rivers challenging Ja'Kai Clark at left guard, and DJ Scaife looking likely to unseat Jared Williams as starter at right tackle. In another area of note, I would say Davon Donaldson seemed really focused and motivated for his fifth year, but I think it would be a good thing for him if he could lose another 25 pounds this summer, and I'm sure that will be a focus here in the next few months. The Lions seemed to do a decent job all spring protecting the quarterbacks. I think there were 2 sacks all spring, but you still have got to be a bit concerned about depth once you get past those top 7 guys. Defensive side of the ball, a little tougher to analyze. Line coach Jess Simpson has openly acknowledged that he does not have a dominant player up front, and he doesn't. Let's be honest. None of us like it. He does not have a dominant player up front. Nesta Silvera has not been that guy. Hyundai has not been that guy. I don't know. I mean, DeAndre Johnson looked pretty good to me as a defensive end, the Tennessee transfer. But a dominant player, I don't know. He wasn't a dominant player at Tennessee. He's a good player. He'll be a good player here. He clearly is the best defensive end on the roster, the best we saw on the field on Saturday. But I don't know that I would call him a dominant player up front. So defensive line will be a question mark going into the season. The word out of practice was that a pass rush was almost non-existent all spring. It would be unrealistic to expect anything close to what Jalen Phillips and even Quincy Roche brought to the defense last season. But somehow, some way, when you look at Chance Williams, Cam Williams, and Jafari Harvey, as well as converted linebacker Zach McLeod, 1 or 2 guys in that group must elevate their game by September for this football team to have a safe shot of accomplishing any goals whatsoever. I look at them right now. This looks like maybe like a 9-win team to me, but they're going to need somebody on defense to come through. I mean, you're not winning scoring contests every single week. They had a few of them last year. The NC State game comes to mind, where they were able to win close games. But we've learned how that goes through the years, man. When you're getting in all those close ACC games every week, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. 2017 got all the breaks. 2018, 2019, not so many. 2020 got the breaks again. We'll see what 2021 holds, but I think some of these guys on defense are going to have to emerge a little bit in the fall. The defense cannot be as challenged as it looked in the spring, and I know they were missing some guys, but the offense was missing guys too. The offense is missing its starting quarterback, King, missing its best running back, Chaney, missing its starting tight end in Will Mallory. Okay? Those are 3 key components of the offense. So tonight, let's put an end to anything like that right now. Let's not try to make excuses for the defense and say, Al Blades was sitting out, the Corey Couch was sitting out. The offense was missing a few of its best guys, okay? And they're the best players on the roster, okay? So everybody was handicapped a little bit. The offense dominated the defense, and the offense got a lot more done, and the offense showed that it's further along than the defense. And I don't think we need to make excuses for that. All right, another issue is the linebacker position. Manny doesn't have an established playmaker to count on. Only has himself to blame. I mean, he's been in charge of recruiting at that position for 6 years now. I mean, they're trying to develop Corey Flagg and Avery Huff and Sam Brooks. Sam Brooks was out this spring. I think either of those guys shooting past B.J. Jennings on the depth chart would be significant progress if it can happen by fall camp. But unquestionably, linebacker is a concern. With Blades and Couch missing the entire spring due to injury, DJ Ivey, we've given a lot of reps to work on his game at corner. The results were not bad, but Ivey definitely must take his share of the blame for the quarterbacks completing almost 70% of their passes this spring. 70%. That's what I'm talking about. Like, everybody that's playing in the secondary is, other than the walk-ons, is on scholarship. I mean, you can't, you're supposed to be at the University of Miami because you're a good player. You can't give up 70% completion rates to quarterbacks. Okay, they consistently put up 70% the whole spring. The best corner on the team is clearly Georgia transfer Tyreek Stevenson. He hopes to be the glue at the position for the Hurricanes. If he plays as well as expected, that should relieve some of the pressure on Ivy, Couch, and Blades. And then among the young guys, one guy that flashed a little bit to me was Isaiah Dunstan. Had a couple tough moments as well, but he did it. You noticed him out there at times. And to me, that's a positive for a young kid. And Dunstan is clearly somebody that could factor in to some playing time this fall. We'll see how that continues to develop. And then at safety, as everybody knows, it's ridiculously crowded there. The veteran guys, to me, are going to need to show up better in September than they were last season. That's Bubba Bolden, Gervin Hall, and Amari Carter. They were all inconsistent last year. Carter seemed to have a decent spring, but he's been getting a look at striker to compete with Gil Frierson, possibly because Avante Williams flashed a ton of potential all spring. James Williams is coming in the fall, and Manny Diaz and Coach T-Rob are going to have some decisions to make. I mean, these young kids are coming fast. I thought Cam Kinchins flashed on Saturday, looked very good. I thought Keyshawn Washington flashed. He looked, very, very good. I thought Avante, I mentioned, looked good. So, right now you would say those kids are probably targeted for special teams roles. But if they keep playing at the level they played Saturday and they keep coming and they know what they're doing, and those veteran guys show up average again, like they were for most of last year, those coaches are going to have some tough decisions to make. So I'd watch out for that as the season approaches as well. All right, so that covers it. The specialists, Headley and Borregales, rock solid, probably as good as it gets in college football. So we're in good shape there. So that gives you guys a quick little snapshot of what I think we're dealing with here coming out of spring practice. And now it's time to get to your calls and see what you think. We'll have Matt Shodell on in a little bit. We'll see what he thinks. And we'll try to cover it all for you here in the coming minutes. And hopefully by the time we're done, you'll have a clear understanding and snapshot look of what this football team looks like going into off-season workouts. So the number, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you'd like to come on the show. Let's see who we got first tonight. It's the 786. I got a feeling I know who this is going to be. You're live on CaneSport Live. How you doing this evening?
Gary, my friend, how are you?
What's up, everything? I knew that was you.
Just hanging in there. Hey, I just missed you Saturday, I guess right next to the elevator. So I just missed you. But I had a chance to be there Saturday, and I didn't get to see the same thing that I saw when I came home and watched it again on ACC Network. And I guess what I can surmise the whole thing is just by saying this. The questions we had going into spring, most of those questions are still unanswered, and contributing to that was the lack of understanding or knowing, rather, the injury situation with so many of these kids, including those kids got nicked up either this game or in the previous scrimmages, rather, in practices. So when you look at the totality of the spring experience, the main question to me that was answered is, do you have somebody proficient enough at the quarterback level, or skill set and the ability to be a playmaker in the shotgun or under center, or however you want to refer to that? And I think that was the main question that was definitely answered, and the answer is yes. I think you've got two very talented kids, but I've always told you, Gary, when you evaluate a quarterback, you're looking at vision, them being able to anticipate the throw before it's time to make the throw, but there's that other element of just being able to be smooth in the pocket, stepping up, sliding in the pocket, and being able to make big plays. And to me, the Garcia kid is the more talented of the group, but he's the better player in the pocket. He's not going to be a threat, I don't think, a viable threat with his feet. But what he does bring is, I'm not going to compare him to Sam Howell because that's totally unfair, but he's kind of got that little confidence, the it factor. He's got that swag, man, and he freaking makes plays, Gary.
No doubt about it. I mean, just an absolutely confident kid, and it shows the minute he steps on the field.
And if we look at what college football has evolved into, it's about the guy playing quarterback. That's the guy that can elevate and take the team wherever it needs to go. The question marks that we have on defense have been compounded with the injury situation. You talked about DJ Ivey. We're looking at defensive end. The kid didn't get a chance to play much. How effective is he going to be? You're looking at your defensive tackles, Nesta not being there. And then you look at, your corners, Al Blades, Corey Couch got nicked up. So there's so many more question marks that we had before spring, and it's so concerning. And what you have to accept now, it's the 20th of April, we have to accept now that the way we're going to win games is in a shootout. We're not going to win games defensively.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly what it's looking like to me. I mean, I agree with you. But, the thing is, it's like, to me, it's like I'm not going to sit here and make excuses about guys that sat out the spring game because they were on both sides of the ball. I mean, De'Ara King, Don Chaney, and Will Mallory are probably three of the top, 4 or 5 players on the team for sure. I mean, they're on offense. So, yeah. So, look, I mean, you recruit Dunstan. You recruit Jalen Harrell. You recruit a lot of these guys that were all out there playing on Saturday. Keyshawn Washington, yeah, they're all recruits. They're no different than the other guys, and I know the other guys have played a little bit more football, but these guys should be able to be competitive athletically out there, certainly. And if they're not, then that goes back to the bigger problem, which that I've always felt was the program's problem, and that's recruiting evaluation. And it's like there can't be that great of a drop. I mean, Corey Couch and Al Blades are good players, but are either one of them so seasoned and so phenomenal that when they're not on the field, that the other 4 or 5 guys on scholarship at cornerback, should get dominated by the offense, which also is weakened to the degree that they were this spring, where the quarterbacks are completing 70% of the passes, and something people it was vanilla defense. Well, they're playing vanilla offense. Also, everything was equal. And the bottom line is the offensive side of the organization, to me, looked further along. Now, is it better coaching by the individual coaches? Is it the scheme of Rhett Lashley? Is it the quality of the quarterback play? It might be a little bit of all those things, but I'm not going to sit here and make excuses and whatever. I want to see these young guys developing and becoming quality players. And, you need Isaiah Dunstan to be better than Al Blades if this program's going to go anywhere.
Well, and that's where it brings me into my next area of concern is when you look at the athletic ability, the speed at which these younger kids are playing compared to the older guys, our older guys, especially on that big touchdown run that Knighton had, the older guys that were in there are still making the same mistakes with angles. They still don't know how to tackle, and they haven't changed. So nothing there has. Then all of a sudden you see a kid like Keyshawn Smith that is pretty much at will now, and you saw what his speed could do, how it impacted the efficiency of the defense. And conversely, you saw with the lack of pass rush how a kid as talented as Tyreek Stevenson is, not only in that scrimmage but in the other scrimmage and in practice, get burnt. So, it's pretty much a combination of a million factors, but the identity of this defense was not established during this time frame. It should have been. It hasn't been, and it might be October, and we still might be in the same type of situation because there isn't enough guys. There aren't enough Jimmies and Joes for us to be an effective defense right now. And that's the God's to honest truth. You've got a bunch of young guys, but they don't know the scheme. It takes a while to understand the scheme. Players always make plays. Playmakers make plays. They impact the game. We've got two young kids coming in. But look at what we continue to emphasize, Gary. Young kids, speed, young kids. It confirms the failures that you just brought about with regards to Manny recruiting linebackers, with regards to our defensive recruiting up front, especially in the pass rush area. So you look at it, all those things come to fruition, and the reality is the only way we're going to win games and consistently win games is by our offense and shootouts and our special teams executing at a high level. Because the defense at this stage is just looking like an average defense at best, Gary, at best. And
that's how it looked to me. I feel the same way as you do. I mean, we're not going to know for sure until the fall. I think it's going to be a week-to-week thing. Who are we playing? What kind of weapons do they have? How good are their coordinators? How good is their head coach? I think that's going to be the situation. It's probably a little kind of similar to last year, but there is not impact talent that I'm seeing on the defensive side of the ball. There's certainly no Jalen Phillips. There's no Quincy Roche. There's no Greg Russo, who obviously was there 2 years ago. I'm not seeing even a Shaq Quarterman or a Michael Pinckney. I think the talent on the defensive side of the ball is challenged. I really do. And hope I'm wrong, and I hope they end up being better than we all think. And, maybe some will develop here over the summer and the fall. But I'm not seeing a lot of game-changing guys, that are gonna turn the game with their ability.
You can still add that, and that leads me to my last thing here. And I've always been telling you I want to say since January, December, I've been saying you can't worry about getting 25 high school kids anymore. You got to worry about getting 17, 18, the rest transfers. And right now, the way that things stand with the NC2A, you've got to go out there and anybody that's a proven commodity at linebacker, at pass rush, you need to forego the future. And this might sound a bit horrific for most of you out there, but you've got to go ahead and cash in now and utilize that because you've got to win now. This is the new norm for us, is every year to get 17 to 18 kids from basically from the high school ranks, and then get the rest of the kids as portal transfers, because that's the only way that we're going to have an opportunity to compete at the highest level in the ACC, let alone have a chance to compete for a national championship. There's a linebacker out of Tennessee. There's a defensive end out of Penn State. There's a defensive end out of Missouri. There's a linebacker out of Vandy. We can go on and on. There's an outstanding corner from an FCS school. There are kids out there that right now, after looking at all the film, and Manny said, well, I think Manny Navarro brought it up in one of the sessions. Hey, what are you going to do now? I mean, well, we got to wait and see, look at all the film. There's nothing else to see.
Well, they don't know. The problem that they have is they don't know what the numbers are going to be. And for whatever reason, the NCAA has been really slow clarifying it for everybody. And, they've used up all their initials for this year. And unless that number is waived and they're allowed to bring in more kids, then they may not be able to bring in another transfer. I don't know how that
And after June you can, but it's going to count towards next year's allotment of 25.
Yeah, and if you're bringing a kid in the middle of the summer already, it's like, is he really going to be positioned to help you a lot? I don't, he better be a pretty damn good player at that point. So, I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with any of it, but I think that they're going to be having to rely on what they've got on the field right now, more than likely.
There comes a time that you've got to go ahead and put all your ducks in a row and put all your cards on the table and basically bet everything you have to get that one or two impactful guys. If it's a pass rusher guy, if it's a linebacker, I
think Manny would be willing to do that. Everything. I think he would be willing to do it. Exactly. I think he knows this is money year for Manny Diaz. I mean, every second of Manny Diaz's existence in the next 6 months is going to be predicated on what can he do to win enough games to get Blake James to add a couple years to his contract, because those extra couple years are going to be worth $8 million to him. And, he'll do it. He's not worried about 3, 4, 5 years down the road. I guarantee you. He knows that he needs to win now, and he wants to win now. And whatever he can do within the guidelines that end up being provided by the NCAA, I think we'll see him do. And, we'll see what happens. All right, everything. Thanks as always for being on the show. Great points as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Gary. Be well and go Canes, baby.
You got it, man. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go out to the 845. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Gary, how you doing, man?
Greg, how are you, buddy? Talk to us, man.
Well.
Give us the juice. Give us your predictions for the next, I guess, few months.
Predictions? I'll give
you're still a legend for the last one.
Yeah, I'll give you some definites in life. Death, taxes, and Pope and Wiggins will drop a pass every game.
Oh man, their moms are listening right now too. Come on, don't be so brutal. They're regular listeners to the show. Tell Mrs. Pope and Mrs. Wiggins that you apologize.
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, okay, but anyway, that sets a bad example in my eyes, Gary. If you continue to put these two out there, why is Keyshawn Smith not ahead of these two clowns? Why? Why not?
I think he's right there. I mean, he's right on the doorstep, and by the fall, I think he will be. But you got to have more than they're trying to have 6, 7, 8 guys, and if you're going to go that deep, I think Pope and Wiggins got to be in that group. So Michael Redding is not ready to be better than Wiggins. I know Wiggins dropped balls, but he's just not. He's not ready to be better than Wiggins. So like you got it. So they got to have enough guys. That's why I think you're seeing Restrepo get every chance and capitalizing on it to get into that rotation. But yeah, I just don't think that there's enough guys ready to beat those guys out, in my opinion.
Okay. If we're gonna have Zach McLeod starting as a defensive end, we're going nowhere fast.
I agree, but that shows you where we are, man. I just talked about it. I know you were listening. I mean, it is what it is.
Gary, our last 4 recruiting classes were ranked 6th, 35th, 12th, and 10th. Okay, and we can't field a competitive defense with that.
That doesn't mean. I mean, listen. I know it sounds crazy, being that we're part of rivals and recruiting rankings and all that. But at the end of the day, it's not that you're getting a few 4-stars or whatever. It's which ones you're getting. We're gonna have a story this week that I want you to make sure you look at. about showing how few guys that are 4 and 5 stars actually end up getting drafted by the NFL. It'll be part of our NFL draft coverage. And it's startling. I mean, and it just supports what I say all the time. It's not about how many 4 stars you sign. It's how well are you evaluating to where the 4 stars that you sign are the good 4 stars. You know, there's 250 of them every year.
Okay, I want to talk. We have one recruit for the next class, right?
Right now we do, yeah.
The quarterback. So
yeah, we do.
Everything is absolutely right. He's going to bring in some transfers. What about this USC linebacker? Why isn't he here yet? That guy's
because I think right now they don't have any initials to bring anybody in. Now, you know, there's something in the rules, and Matt Shodell has researched this a little bit more than me, and he's coming on right after you here, and we'll talk about that. But there's something that is keeping them from counting forward right now. I think once you get to a certain point in the summer that you can, but I know that you know, anytime we spoke to Manny about it in the last couple months, it was always like, we're out of initials. Now, I think that once they can turn the page and start counting forward, I do think there's a chance that they would bring in a few transfers, just because the roster's so young. I mean, it's like 65% or something of the roster is freshmen. So they need to get a little older, and transfers certainly accomplishes that, even if it's not just for this year, even going forward into next year. I think that you're right in that they will bring in transfers because they need to get older. The roster's too young right now.
Okay. Do you see any signings for 2022 in the next month, in June?
Yes. I think there's going to be a lot of activity in June. I think that, you know, you're going to see when June 1st gets here, it's going to be like turning on a water faucet, okay? June 1st, they're having a barbecue on campus for the 2022 kids. I wouldn't be surprised if they walk out of there with a commitment or two. Then I think it's the next day they're having a barbecue for the 2023 and 2024 kids, and wouldn't be shocked if you saw a couple commitments come out of that. And then once that's out of the way, you're going to have kids visiting campus every single day. You're going to have visits. Kids are going to be going all over the place. The month of June, in my opinion, is going to be unlike anything that we have ever seen well, I'm not going to say ever, but it's going to be unlike anything we've seen in quite some time in recruiting. It's going to be like taking 6 months of recruiting and packing it into 1 month, and it's going to be insane. You're going to have so many kids visiting. You're going to have kids committing, kids decommitting. It's going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be insane. We're not going to get much sleep at CaneSport in the month of June.
All right, my last quick point. You're good at reading players. Like you told us Job is never going to sign with Miami.
Yep.
What are our chances with Armella and Innis right now?
Innis, I don't think is out of the question. Although, I mean, that kid's going to have his pick of the entire country, so I don't know. Armella does not look to me at all like he's planning on staying home. I'm hearing a lot of Alabama there. I'm hearing LSU there. I know Florida State thinks that they can get in because of the legacy stuff and all that. So I don't feel great. I don't feel good at all about Armella. Very so about Innis, and the other top kids down here this year I don't feel good about. You know, I think Shamar Stewart is going to leave. You know, just I don't think that this is going to be a great recruiting year for Miami locally, and I think that's why you see them being so aggressive and so active outside of the area, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think Miami football can rely just on South Florida. I know, all of us down here, we love to think it's all about the 305 and the 954. It's not. I think that's been proven. Look at the last 20 years. And I think that Miami needs to get back to recruiting on a national level. And I think these coaches are a little better recruiters than what we've had in the past, and maybe a little bit more capable of going outside the area and battling a little bit. And we're going to see how they do. It's going to be very interesting.
All right. Thanks, Gary. I'll talk to you next time.
All right, Greg. Great speaking to you as always. Thanks for being part of the show. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Now I'm going to switch gears, and we're going to do a quick check-in with our CaneSport managing editor, Mr. Matt Shodell. Matt, have you gotten some sleep and recovered from Rivals Camp Miami Sunday in that 90-whatever degree heat it was? Oh, my God. I was dead for a day and a half after that. Woof. It was hot out there,
fun.
folks.
We should have sent Greg out there. I don't know how I'm going to follow Greg, but I'll try.
Yeah, it was pretty brutally hot out there. I mean, on that artificial surface at Doral Academy, and it was definitely over 90. Very little breeze, and the kids fought through it, though. They're kids. But anyway, let's talk spring football first. Let's talk recruiting for a second, because I want to get back to the question that Greg was just talking about, and I think I described it properly in terms of the numbers. And I know you've been crunching those things, and Manny's made it pretty clear that they think they're out of initials here right now. When do you have an understanding? When does that switch change to where they can start counting transfers towards next year?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to, Miami coaches just about number stuff in the past, and what it always was that was explained to me is that as long as a kid enrolls in January or in the summer, it doesn't matter, they can count forward as long as it's a transfer, just like an early enrollee can count backwards. And so the other issue, there's, as everyone knows, there's two numbers, the 25 initials every year, which Miami is completely full. They had nothing left over after the last cycle because they took a couple of transfers, the spots they had open, counting backwards. And then the 85 roster number, which the NCAA has not changed, which they're going to have to do something about, not this coming season, but the season after. And to your point of taking transfers, so right now, if the roster stays the way it is and they don't sort of jettison anybody and nobody else decides to leave, that 85 number, there's only room for 2 transfers to come in, and they can take them whenever they want. What Diaz said was they're out of initials, and then what he also said this spring, or pre-spring, was they want to see what they have at linebacker and some other positions before deciding what transfers to take, because if they feel comfortable at a position, they don't have to cost a spot in the 2022 class. And the nice thing about that is I don't think, if they're smart, they're not going to fill up this coming class, the 2022 class, because like you said, the local guys, the top ones, for whatever reason, don't seem as interested. I mean, they haven't committed. They're exploring all their options, which is never a good sign. And currently, right now, there's 53 freshmen scheduled to be on the roster when you include the people arriving this summer that are going to be freshmen. And then if you take 25 more freshmen in the next class, you're going to have 78 roster players in 2022 on the team that are freshmen or sophomores, which is insane. I mean, you don't want that. That's too many guys. They're going to leave. They're going to be 4th, 5th teamers. They're not going to be happy. So to me, it makes sense to sign a very small class this year of maybe 10 to 15 top guys. Don't waste your time on guys that you don't know are going to be the real deal. Don't get projects this year, okay? If you need help right away, you realize you need 4 or 5 transfers, and you get a couple of guys to transfer out, take 4 or 5 transfers, the positions you need, get the right guys. And if you do that, you're going to have 5 to 10 more leftover scholarships that you can count forwards for extra transfers, extra recruits in the future that can count forward or backward for early enrollees. And that's a great way during this COVID era to beat this system that the NCAA has set up where these kids all have these extra years of eligibility and rosters are going to balloon to 120 kids and no one's going to be happy on the team. If Miami's smart, and I was going to ask Manny about this, but this spring, they didn't talk that much this spring. If they're smart, they will not fill up this class at all. 10 to 15 max is if I'm the coach, because you don't need the numbers. and the 2023 class is stacked. And the 2022 class, it is what it is. I mean, if you get great guys, you're not going to turn them down. But to me, you start building the program using this. It's almost like trading your best player in the NFL for 4 future draft picks. Don't get the kids now. You don't need the roster numbers. Save them. So that's what I would do. I think that would give them a huge competitive advantage down the road. When all these freshmen and sophomores are now juniors and seniors, you can say, to these top kids in the country, listen, we've been winning 10 games a year, hopefully. And you come here, we're planning on reload. You're part of that, blah, 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 blah. You bring these huge classes in the 2024, 2025 years when Miami's already offering these kids and working some of the top kids right now. You can take 30 kids in one of those classes if you save these scholarships now. So to me, that's what makes sense. Will Manny Diaz do that, or is he fixated on just trying to win right now and make sure that his job and his other guys' jobs are safe this year or next year? I don't know. But I think for the best interest of the program, take 10 to 15 recruits this year, take 4 or 5 transfers if you need to, and save the rest of the spots.
I agree. I think you're spot on. And being out at Rivals Camp on Sunday, I never felt more sure about what you're saying, and couldn't agree more, because the talent base in South Florida this year is not the same as it was a year ago when they took all those guys, and they're going to have to go out of town, bulk of their recruiting, and you're just not going to get 25 great guys from out of town. So yeah, do exactly what you said. And even if you save 5 scholarships for the next cycle or whatever, the team needs to get older. The roster needs to, the roster balance needs to change a little bit. So why not start moving in that direction now? Now, I mentioned Shamar Stewart. We talked about Armella. I'll throw in Earl Little Jr. in there. The best players from this area don't look like they're coming to Miami this year. And it looks like we're going backwards a little bit in that regard. Have you seen in your eyes a reason for that and why that trend might be reverting a little bit?
Well, every year and every kid's different. Armella wouldn't even commit to going to Miami's barbecue June 1st, It sounds like he's going
I know.
that day. Earl Little, was highly interested in Miami, but, he just doesn't seem to be anymore. I've been told Shamar Stewart, was basically an LSU lock. I don't think Miami has ever expected to get him. I don't know where he might wind up, but Miami is certainly not expecting to get him. So, why is it? I mean, it's just sort of what has happened with wins and losses, and just some kids want to leave the area. Some kids want to go to the SEC. That's just sort of what kids want to do nowadays is play for the cool conference, which happens to be the SEC right now. And until Miami can play with Clemson, you can't expect to get kids that Alabama, LSU, Ohio State are going after, or even Georgia. I mean, it's just very, very difficult when those schools all gang up on Miami and tell kids, if you go to Miami, look what happened to these kids. Look at their draft picks over the last whatever number of years of your position. There's just too much to negative recruit against. In Miami, the only way to fight that is to win games and get guys in the NFL draft, and not just, a defensive end that transferred for a year and played here and a kid who opted out. I'm talking about, back when they had, 6, 7, 8 kids going in the first 3 or 4 rounds. That's when you can say, come here and we will make you millions of dollars, and you can stay home and play in front of your family. Right now, it's just too easy to negative recruit against Miami. And last year, Miami lucked out with COVID, as crazy as it sounds. I mean, kids literally could not take visits. I don't think James Williams winds up at Miami if he could take visits. And there's a few other kids. Even Thaddeus Franklin was 50-50 until he couldn't take visits. So, it was just a really lucky circumstance. I think it's going to really help Miami over the next few years that they had that great class last year. But this year it's almost like, it's like in life, right? Something great happens and something bad happens. It all sort of evens out in the end. So I don't think this class this year is going to be as good locally, like you said. Now, maybe they will luck out and get some top out-of-state guys and convince them to come here. But the other problem is with all these kids that are coming back that were starters last year, what position can they point to and say, and with the young kids in the class, what position can you say, you're definitely going to come here and start. If you go to, this school or that school, you'll never start. It's a difficult situation with them getting a top class and then so many sophomores and juniors still on the team. I think there's only how many seniors? 5. I'm counting right now. There's 9 seniors on the team this year. So we'll see. It's a tough sell.
Yeah, I mean, eventually there'll be some defections and things like that. There's going to be some transfers down the road. So just too many young players on the team. They're not all going to be able to play. But we'll worry about that a year or two down the road. Let's talk about what we saw this spring out at the spring game on Saturday. We finally got a chance to see a detailed body of work, and not a ton of surprises, but let's start with the quarterbacks. I was very impressed with how those two guys handled themselves.
Yeah, I mean, just watching the scrimmage, it was pretty obvious that, Jake Garcia seemed more explosive, but, it was a great article written on our site the other day that sort of looked at it a little more closely. And I agree with the analysis that Jake Garcia was more playing on instinct, and Tyler Van Dyke was more playing, was playing smarter, like he's a more cerebral guy, which makes sense because he's been in the system. Now the question is, can Jake get to that level quickly? I do think that next year, when this is an actual battle to start, assuming there's no setback for Derek King, I personally think Jake Garcia will be the starter, just based on what I saw in the spring game. So again, that's a small window to watch, but that's how impressed I was with Jake Garcia. I can't remember the last time I saw a true freshman who's been on campus for 3-something months and actually had an injury where he couldn't even practice to start the spring and was held out, of a lot of the workouts beforehand because of that, coming from a high school injury. It looked like that. Like, that was super impressive to me.
And yeah, you mentioned the analysis that we have on CaneSport.com today that was done by Thomas Frank Carr, and he really did a sensational job breaking down everything that took place on Saturday, and really goes deep, in depth into the ins and outs and positives and minuses of negatives rather of both Garcia and Van Dyke. And I encourage any of you guys listening who have not read that yet, go to CaneSport.com and read that story. It's one of the better ones that we've had recently. Matt, let me shift gears. I went through the whole team at the top of the show, but I do want to get your opinion on the defense. And I walked out of that. I was concerned about the defense before spring practice ever began. I do not see a lot of impact talent on that side of the ball. And I know people are going to say, "Oh, Gary, you're always talking about impact talent. You say the same shit every year." But yeah, no, I mean, I know someone's going to say that, but it's absolutely true. I mean, last year we had a couple guys that emerged. They were transfers. Phillips ended up, he was a 1-year loaner that, came in and yeah, he was great. Quincy Roche, I thought, was very, very good. He was a transfer. They have not been able to recruit impact defensive players in many, many years here. And I see the same thing this year. I see some good players. I mean, but I don't see a lot of great players, and I don't see a lot of depth. And I think that really showed in the spring scrimmages and showed at Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, the defense is going to be very, very average. But you know what? There's an easy schedule. These opponents, other than, Alabama and North Carolina, are obviously going to cause a lot of problems. But if Miami's going to win, it's going to win games with offense, not with defense, which is like such a weird thing given the history of the program and how good the defense has been here. I'm not sure on paper. I don't even think the defense is better than last year's defense. I mean, you lose.
No, I don't think it's close.
But that's scary.
I mean,
that's
when you
scary.
take you're taking two guys, you're taking Phillips and Roche out of the equation, and
how crazy
you don't have any.
When the defense was the defense got the defense coordinator fired last year, and now it's hypothetically a worse defense on paper. It's crazy, but. We'll see. Maybe Manny Diaz is the answer that everyone hopes he is. I mean, if he can figure out how to get this defense to be dominating, then, I mean, anybody who criticizes him after that is out of their minds, because this defense is full of average players. And, everyone says, oh, the spring game doesn't matter. The defense is playing vanilla, and they're missing all these guys from injuries. Well, I mean, here's the defensive guys missing from injuries was Bubba Bolden, who was not good the last half of last year. Sam Brooks, who has never done anything, and, people are hoping he'll be great and start, but, I mean, he's never done anything. Al Blades, Marcus Clark, to Corey Couch, 3 cornerbacks. Couch was awful in the bowl game, was okay in a couple of games earlier in the year. Al Blades was benched, before he had the problem. Marcus Clark, who knows? He was a freshman. And then Brian Ballum was a backup, and then Nessa Silvera, who's arguably the top returning player on defense. I don't know, but, I mean, I don't think he's that good. So, he's good, don't get me wrong, but, he's not going to be a game changer at defensive tackle. I mean, he did what he did last year with everybody worrying about the two defensive ends, and he was okay last year. He wasn't great.
Correct.
He was very good. So it's a big problem on defense, but the good news is I think the offense is going to be even better, with a full year and all the talent back and adding Charleston Rambo. I mean, I think the offense is going to be really good. And, everyone wants to say Tyreek Stevenson is going to make the defensive back so much better, but, I'm not sold on that yet. He basically was a backup cornerback at Georgia. I mean, he's basically in a few different positions there. But he's a big guy. There's some question about the fluidity of his hips and covering certain guys. And I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. I do think he'll be their top cornerback. I'm just not sure he's going to be able to shut down the top receiver on every single team that we play this year without help over the top, So we'll see. If Manny Diaz wants to gamble and do all the blitzes that he likes to do, you need the cornerbacks to hold up, and I'm just not sold that's going to happen. That really, to me, is going to be the key. Can the cornerbacks hold up in a lot of one-on-one situations they're going to be put in? Because I think for Manny to dial up pressure, he's not getting it with the front four like he did last year. He's going to have to bring linebackers and bring safeties a lot and do it all different sorts of ways. And if other teams diagnose that and the cornerbacks don't hold up, there's going to be a lot of points scored in these games next year.
Yep, but you're exactly right. He's going to have to take chances, and we'll see how it works out. Sometimes it might look great. Sometimes it might not look so great. And I think what you said earlier, that they're going to have to score a lot of points to win against good teams, I think will apply this year. And I think it was that they had to get in the 40s to win the NC State game last year. That was a decent team. They'll be decent again this year. They come to Hard Rock. I think Florida State is going to be better and probably capable of doing some things. Obviously, North Carolina, Alabama. From there, when you look at the Virginia Tech, Duke, Georgia Tech, we don't know if any of them are going to be competitive or not. Probably not. It's not a very difficult schedule, but there'll be 4 or 5 outings there where maybe Michigan State could put a good game together. I'm not, I haven't studied their team yet, but there'll be your usual 4, 5, 6 weekends where the games are going to be close and tight, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think right now the defense is looking a little problematic. All right, Matt. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show tonight, and now we'll be diving into recruiting for the next few months, and it's going to be nuts, man. And May getting ready for June, and then June's going to be absolutely insane, and then there's a quiet period in July to kind of shift gears, and we'll start looking towards the season a little bit in July. So we'll be giving you guys quite the fix through the whole off season. We promise. It's going to be very active and very exciting, through this recruiting period. And then obviously with Alabama as the season opening opponent, once we get into August with training camp and everything. So yeah, there'll be plenty for us to cover, plenty for you guys to keep up on here in the next few months. And so Matt, yeah, thanks for being on the show, and we'll talk to you again next time.
Perfect.
All right, that's Matt Shodell, our managing editor at CaneSport.com. The number 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you'd like to come on the show. Let's go now to the 727. You're live on CaneSport Live. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Gary, it's Jake from St. Pete.
Hey, what's up, Jake? How you been, man?
Doing good. Can't complain. So, one thing I wanted to ask, this isn't really spring game related, but why do you think it is that we just can't seem to get any traction in South Florida? Arguably, we're going to put 3 defensive ends in the top 100 in the NFL draft, and the one position, it's pretty well agreed upon, 2022, bad year for South Florida. But the one position that it's absolutely stacked at is defensive end, and yet we've got traction with maybe defensive end in South Florida. Like what? You know, at what point is it almost like time to move on?
I think number one, these kids were transfers, so there's no roots, there's no familiarity. I don't think Miami's
Rousseau
getting True, you're right. But Roche and Phillips last year were. You're right. Rousseau.
Let's go further than that. Manny Diaz, every year he's been a coach. Defensive ends should be clamoring to play in this system. He's put a defensive lineman in the NFL every single year that he's been here. Granted, some of them have been pretty low draft picks, but nonetheless, he's dealt with a lower caliber of talent. Like, it's easy for Alabama. They're getting top 50 players left and right. So you should put guys in the first round. That's just simple numbers. But Miami is actually taking lesser guys, especially if there's one position you could say it at, it's defensive line. They've taken lesser players and consistently put them in the NFL. So now you've got these high caliber players, and they're just like, pound sand. I want to go to the SEC. At some point, I get we got to have these hardcore alpha recruiters. Fine, whatever. But there seems to be no buy-in and no loyalty in the community, and I just don't know how you break that.
All right, let's see if we can. Let's try to figure it out right here. All right. So you mentioned Rousseau. Rousseau, and that was a great point. Rousseau was a wide receiver in high school at Champagnat High School in Hialeah, which I don't know if you're familiar with that school. It's a little warehouse school in Hialeah that where kids go to get their academics straight, whatever. So Rousseau wasn't really nobody saw him even playing defensive end, and it wasn't this great defensive end from Dade County is going to Miami. No, he was an athlete going to Miami. They turned him into a defensive end. He basically played 1 year. Okay, so there wasn't even time to develop him as a personality, to market him. The year that you might have done that, he opted out. So that's. So that's one thing I think that we can point to. The other is the last time Miami played for anything in football was 20 years ago. They're recruiting 17-year-old kids.
No doubt.
So these kids don't identify with Miami football doing Jack Diddley because it hasn't done Jack Diddley in all these years.
The Armella kid. Now, FSU has been a punching bag for the last, 4 years? He seems pretty interested in FSU.
I don't think he's really that interested in FSU. I could be wrong. I think he's not. I think he's going to go to Alabama.
Marvin Jones Jr. is. And it's just it just seems like there is. It seems like the predominant mindset of South Florida kids, even though Miami pours boatloads into the community, they put on these camps, they put on all this stuff for South Florida kids, and it just seems like if nothing better comes along, maybe I'll give them a shot.
Yeah, well, let me give you another factor. I'm going to give you another factor that I feel is real, and that's the coaching staff turnover that we've had here. It's been ridiculous. So you don't have guys recruiting high schools for multiple years, in a row. Really, the one exception was Coach Bonda down in the southern part of Dade County. And look where we got our kids. We got a couple kids from Palmetto. We got a few kids from South Dade and Southridge and those schools. So, now he's gone. Well, who the hell are we gonna have recruiting South Florida? We're gonna have T-Rob, who's recruiting for us for the first time. Coach Ishmael Aristide will be recruiting in South Florida, I'm sure.
To a degree, though, T-Rob's been in South Florida for, a decade now? I mean,
but not recruiting for Miami. not recruiting for Miami, and there's a big difference coming down.
There.
He does. He knows some, but like it's a big difference when you're coming in to recruit 1 or 2 kids, and now you're responsible for the whole southern part of Dade County. We'll see how it goes. He's one of the better recruiters in the country. I'm sure he'll do fine, but now you're sitting here and you don't have the kids you don't have the level of kids that you really need to take. Look, for Miami to get to the next level, it has to recruit better. It has to evaluate better. Just loading up on local kids because they're local kids, if they're not good enough to be difference makers, if they're not going to let you compete with Clemson, then what the hell is the point? And this is why it's like I'm just
what I'm saying, but
I'm craving Jay for the day that this whole cycle turns. I mean, this cycle has got to change at some point. I mean, all of us we're all like getting old and gray, waiting for this to happen. Miami football can be Miami
I
football.
Started a little bit earlier, so
Jake, it can be Miami football. Trust me, this program can be what we want it to be. It can be. They got to let it be Miami.
I don't think it can be Clemson. I think,
100%.
To me, like what's
100% it could be Clemson. Yes, it absolutely can. Absolutely can.
We caught lightning in a bottle. And I'm a pumper. I'm one of those guys who starts the season. Hey, why not? Let's beat Alabama. But you just look like the shifts. I look at like just the demographic shifts. Think about the type of kid that you first started. Look, I'm sure back in the 80s, when I first started watching Miami in the 80s, I was 8 years old and I lived in Chicago, so I don't know, other than historically, what Miami was like back then. I don't know, but like. The kids who came in, they were hard-nosed. They were tough. Like, it seems like just we get all these prima donnas. All they're focused on is I want 3 years, minimal effort. And I think that's another problem is I think a lot of guys, too, they hit kind of that cap where they're just good enough to get in the NFL. You saw that Joe Jackson, John Garvin, Chad Thomas all went to the NFL. They left so much in the tank, just like, I just want to get that money. I just want to go get over to the NFL. And so many other guys. And you look at that change. Think of like Ed Reed or think of Alonzo Highsmith or all these guys. These guys were hard-nosed, badass football players. Like, the NFL, I'm sure they wanted to make money. No doubt. Everybody does. Who can blame them? But these guys were about team. They were about football, about hard work. I don't see that same attitude coming out of South Florida that it used to. And yeah, sure, it produces talent, but I don't think it produces the same work ethic that made Miami. And I don't know. To me, it's just more and more. It's seeming like lightning in a bottle type of thing as opposed to something that can be duplicate. I think we could be Georgia. I think we could be Oklahoma, a 10-win perennial. But, that just dominant powerhouse every year. We don't have offensive line. We don't have quarterbacks in our neck of the woods. And building a national brand, before the national brand was what was on TV. And so all these kids growing up, Miami was this renegade city somewhere off in a tropical paradise, and you had all these badass football players down there. That drew a ton of people there, but like now everyone's Instagram famous. Miami isn't some exotic locale. The Kardashians are all over the place there, and people like them everywhere. It's not the same thing, and I don't know. Usually I'm more optimistic, but I just find myself thinking like I would be so satisfied just knowing that our team was going to win 10 games every year and that I wasn't going to be infuriated by a North Carolina loss like we had last season. I could have, if they would have lost that game, let's say they lose it by 8, I'd be happy as shit with last season. I just, it's the embarrassment and that's like, that comes down to personal pride. I was at that game. I don't think that team had any pride in itself, and they just said, well, they're going to steamroll us. I just don't see that cutthroat mentality anymore coming out. I hope to God Manny Diaz can solve it, because like you said earlier, 20 years. It's been 20 years since our last national championship. That's an entire generation of players. These kids weren't even born that we're recruiting. They weren't born by 2 years, 3 years. You go through that for another cycle or so with a coaching change and whatnot. It's just like, then what's Miami? They're
Jake, I promise you. Navy. Okay, I promise you. Okay, I've been here. I don't even want to say how many years because it makes me really sound old, but I promise you, Miami can be Miami again. Trust me on that. Miami can. Let me here. I'm going to give you a story before I let you go. So Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay, Alabama comes to town for the national title game, and you know where they practiced, right? At Miami.
Yeah,
they practice on our field and our facilities, whatever. And obviously they're looking around the campus and all that. A lot of people that I know that know people at Alabama and stuff, those guys are calling like, what the hell? Like, people that they know are connected to Miami or whatever. Like, man, this place is unbelievable. Like when people come in and see what they got to work with the campus and the weather and the beaches and and everything that's in South Florida and all that, like they're like, and these are the people, these are the most successful people in the business. They're like how is this place not like in the top 5 every year? Like, how are they not dominating recruiting? Like, trust me, Miami can be Miami again. Okay, it can. I don't know if Manny's going to be able to do it or not. We're going to find out in the next 2 years. But
I hope. I guess you might have just talked me off the ledge. But
I'm telling you right now, okay, that if Manny can't do it, don't let Blake James screw this up again. Okay, like, you get the right coach who can hire the right.
If Manny goes.
You get the right coach that can hire the right staff and get the right recruiters in here and pull it all together and rally the community and everything else. Trust me, Miami can be Miami again. All right,
I'm with it. But here's why I root for Manny is because what in our, okay, Schnellenberger and Jimmy Johnson, fine. Denny Erickson took over from what Jimmy Johnson handed it to him. He just had a monster class that he took over. But like, there's just, to me, I don't know. Look at what Alabama's spending on coaches. They have 3 NFL coaches on their staff.
Yeah, I understand.
Ever gonna break out that
probably not, but you don't have to have Bill O'Brien to have good offense. Trust me, Rhett Lashley will have offensive numbers every bit as good as Bill O'Brien's this year. So anyway, Jake, I got to let you go, but trust me on this. Yeah, man, trust me on this. Miami could be Miami again. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Jake.
Love the show, man. Awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate you being part of it. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. Hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Oh, I recognize this number up next. It's Brucey W., a guy that I know agrees with me that Miami could be Miami again. Tell him, Bruce.
What's up, my friend? How you been?
Doing good, man. I'm fired up tonight. I
was in my car listening to it. I had to roll the windows down. It was too damn loud. Jeez.
Oh my God. I'm so passionate.
Your volume is louder than the callers. You know that.
Oh no, I didn't realize. I'm going to talk quiet. I'm going to talk a little lighter. Okay. Hey, Bruce. I feel this. I feel this passionately. Okay. Miami can be Miami. It absolutely can. They just got to let it be Miami.
Can they be Miami? Forget Manny for a second. Can they be Miami with Blake James? Can you answer that question? You, Gary, you're on the spot.
I would have said yes until he told. Listen, I like Manny. I think making Manny try to do this job at the level that it has to be done to compete with Alabama and Clemson is one of the biggest jokes I've seen in a long time. It's not fair, and that's
Right.
why you've seen how he struggled year 1 and year 2. He's doing the best he can. I tell him, people get mad at me. Go, Gary, stop saying don't blame Manny. How can you blame Manny? Why would the guy not want this job? And he's doing the best he can. He's trying so freaking hard. He's improved his coaching staff. I mean, ideally, obviously, the coaching staff would have already been at this level from day one. I mean, let's be honest, but like he's making it better every year. He's trying like hell, but like it's a hard job. It's one of the toughest jobs in college football, and you can't just put anybody into this and say, "Hey, go be Alabama and Clemson." And
right. So let me ask you
see.
this one, because I'm asking you questions today. You're the answer man. So is he a failure at his own specialty, the defense? I mean, where all these years he's been here, and look where the defense is now. Where are the players?
No, he's not a failure in his own specialty. No, he's not. And I'm going to tell you why.
Give me the name
I'm
of
going
the
to tell you why.
Bruce,
Bruce, you got a racing for him, okay? You got a 20-year racing for him on Manny Diaz coaching defense, okay? You tell me where Manny Diaz has coached defense better than what he's done at Miami. No place. I'll answer the question for you.
I'm talking about the players. Where's the players?
Well, that's going to be my next point.
You keep talking about recruiting. That's what I'm talking about.
No, that's going to be my next point.
All these years, and
wait a minute.
The hell are the players?
No, that's my next point. But let me finish this point first. Okay, He wasn't more successful than this at Mississippi State, Louisiana Tech, Texas. He got run out of town. Manny Diaz as a defensive coach has been more successful since he came to Miami than at any point in his career. Okay, that's number one. Recruiting. Go back. You got a 20-year track record. Where are the recruiting?
I only care about the last 4 years, just like the rest of the people listening to this show. And yes, he's lost a lot of defensive ends that have gone to the draft. He lost a couple of D tackles, McIntosh, some of these guys that left early. That didn't help him at all. But the guys on the roster now, they're like 10, 11 deep on the D-line. I don't even think Nest is that good. He's okay, but he's not a dominant player. You got a game plan for him. I don't think there's any player on their defense.
Okay, where is the recruiting pedigree? Where is the recruiting pedigree of
I'll answer that because I'm telling you because you know this because listen, I talk to Bluestein all the time. I've told you this in our own private messages. He's told me for 10 years, and I think a lot of people are going to listen to this. They have a really bad job of identifying kids early in the process. And for years, they're trying to catch up to other schools. That's got to stop. Now, he wants to actually work at Miami, but he's never going to call Manny Diaz. He'd rather have Manny reach out to him. He's more than happy to do it. He knows these kids when they come out of their mothers. He knows these kids in kindergarten, for God's sakes. Why isn't he involved in something like this? Now, the fact that he's not, whatever, but they have a real problem identifying kids early in the process. Maybe that'll change now. I hope so, but I just don't see a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball at all.
But the point is this, Bruce.
You were talking everything about the same thing. It's true.
But
that's for
But this is the deal. This is the deal. If you're going to go out and you're going to compete for the best players in the country, you got to go against Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. You know, you're going against schools that have big-time coaching staffs, big-time budgets. They don't have weaknesses, and you have to really be on top of your stuff if you're going to compete with those guys for the top players in the country. Well, if you're not going to get the top players in the country, you're going to have a hard time turning the corner and getting to be an 11, 12-win program that can compete for the ACC title and compete for national titles.
Our defense has ever had the best players in the country. I don't think Russell Maryland was so good in high school. Neither was Cortez. Neither were a lot of these guys. They made themselves into good players because they just refused.
Yeah, but Bruce, they were great evaluations. Yeah, but they were great evaluations. It's not just about how many stars you got and stuff. It's evaluating
I know
talent.
That, and that's the coaching staff.
I mean, like
back
Reggie
then,
Wayne and Reed. Like you could go on and on. All these guys. What phenomenal talent evaluation was taking place in this program when Jimmy Johnson was here, when Butch Davis was here. Like out of this world evaluation was going on, and that's why Miami became Miami. And even when you had a head coach that couldn't sustain it, you were able to win, like in the Erickson case, 2 national titles because there was so much talent stockpiled to allow a good football coach, which Dennis Erickson was, to win a couple championships before his lack of ability to identify and recruit caught up, and then the program dropped off a little bit. Butch comes in as good as anybody that we've ever seen at evaluating talent and recruiting. By the time he's done with year 4 and 5, you're right up there. You're the top program in America. So it can happen again. You give me that level of recruiter, that level of talent evaluation from the coaching staff, that type of work ethic to go out and get it done, Miami could be Miami again.
All right, that's great. Except for, is anybody on this staff capable of doing that and bringing in these guys? They knew about some of these guys for years, and now they're not going to get Armella. They're not going to get a lot of these kids. Are not going to get.
Yeah, I mean,
if they don't win 10 games this year, Gary, good luck trying to recruit outside the state of Florida with a the 4 or 5 loss team. They're really going to be screwed. That's why
I agree. I don't disagree, Bruce.
They got to bring in some transfers, and then you talked about the kid from UCLA. They knew about him months ago. Why wasn't he here in January? We're in April and they still haven't? I don't know what's going on with him, but they need a linebacker that could hit people. I don't understand I understand what he's trying to do, and he's got to worry about how many ships he's got coming in next year. But they need help now. This is a big year for him. They can't lose 4 games, by a field goal and just say, we were close. This is a big year. If they don't win 10 games, I don't know how they're going to recruit nationally. I just don't. They get blown out by Alabama, UNC blows them out, and they lose 2 or 3 other games. He's in real trouble. They say he's going to come back for another year. I don't know why.
Yeah, he will. I mean, they're not going to not give him at least 4. But I think to me the danger is being stuck in that middle for forever. 8 wins, 9 wins. You could be stuck there forever. So we'll see. We don't want to be pessimistic here. You got a new season coming up in September. I think the offense is going to be really, really good. And defense might have some problems. But
really good. They're going to be very good, unless something really bad happens. But they're going to be really good. And I think maybe if they're on the field and they score points, the defense will feel a little better, and they may give up 20, 25 points a game. But if they still win by 2 touchdowns, what's the big deal? They really only have Alabama, and I don't know if they can compete, and UNC. The rest of the games they should win. They really should. There's no excuse to lose to those other teams. There's no excuse to actually be in close games, except the defense might not be that good. But I'm hoping that they can figure this out and come up with a pass rush this year. But they need the defensive tackles to make stops. Those guys they're just non-existent. They're just not there. That's the key to the whole defense. Is those 2 guys in the middle.
Ness is a little bit better than what we saw out there on Saturday, but Ness is not changing a game.
I like Hunt, but I wish he was healthy. If he's going to continue to be on and off and healthy and not healthy, because he's got a good pass rush, he gets in the backfield. They need disruptors. That's why I said to you a few months ago, Holly might be somebody because he gets in the backfield, but I don't know where he is on the depth chart. I don't know what he's doing, but he's a guy that can get into the backfield and create problems like we used to. The guys used to get in the backfield, and the linebackers just cleaning up. I don't know that's going to happen this year because you're not going to double team our tackles. That's for sure. Well,
on a little recruiting note, we just got a little scoop that went up on the website at CaneSport.com. Nigella Kelly, he's a defensive end from Fort Lauderdale-Dillard. He had been committed to Florida State. He's now decommitted from Florida State, and we think there's a great chance he ends up committing to Miami at some point here. So we'll see what happens there. We think
that was speculated a month or so ago. That's really not so far-fetched. That was pretty much, we knew that, kind of knew that.
Well, now he's now decommitted from Florida State, so it looks like it's in motion there. We'll see. Yeah. But anyway, so what else you got for us, Bruce? Anything else?
No, I just talked to a lot of the former players, and we were hoping that they could have this come down for the spring game, but they were told no. So, we were going to go to our favorite Italian restaurant, which you know what it is. We could still mention it, right? Or no?
Yeah, of course.
Sicilian oven.
Yeah.
But, we're doing good. Everybody's good. Family's good. And that's all that matters right now is good health. And I hope your family's healthy and everybody else out there. Stay healthy. I lost a few cousins to this damn disease. It's not fun. It's horrible.
No,
I just hope everybody's going to be healthy. What's the story for the season? They're going to have tickets for everybody, or are going to limit us again, or you don't know yet?
I think that's the plan right now. They put individual games on sale, so it sounds like they're intending to go full speed ahead, so we'll see.
Good. All right. Well,
Bruce.
Next time you're on, I'll call you, buddy. But
you got it, man.
Be well. Stay safe.
Yep.
Bye, Go Canes. Talk to you later.
Good talking to you. Yep.
Bye.
All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. Hit the 1 on your keypad if you'd like to come on the show. Let's see where we are here. Let's go to the 770. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hello?
That's you. Who's this?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's you. Who's this?
Steve.
What's up, Steve?
You got it.
Is this Steve? Not Steve from Atlanta. Steve from Atlanta?
Yeah, this is Steve from Atlanta.
My man, Steve. How you been, buddy?
I'm good.
You doing all right?
I'm good. Yeah. How about the?
Talk to us, man. Talk to us. What you got?
I ain't got much. Just a little concern about your comments about the defense.
Are you concerned because you think they're wrong, or because of what I'm saying?
It's all of the above. They should be wrong. You might not be wrong. You get what I'm saying?
I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong.
Well, I hope you're wrong too, but you're probably right. But the reasons you are right are not because the reason you're saying you're right. Do you follow me?
Not really, but go ahead. You got the floor.
Well, Manny Diaz has been at Miami for how long?
Well, 3 with Mark Richt, and now this third as a head coach, so this is his 6th year.
So how long has he been in charge of defense? Pretty much the whole time, right?
Of course, 6 years, yeah.
So if he's the guy to be running this defense, he should have had it stocked up by now. It's not and Lashley. No, hold on, let me finish. It's not like he's in Lashley's shoes, where Lashley's playing with other guys, receivers, and other guys, talent as a coordinator, and he's trying to, wait till his guys get in. You only get these guys for 3 years, period, point blank, 3 to 4 years. You ain't gonna never have the same guys. You got to develop what you got quickly.
I know, but look what Lashley did, Steve. Look what he did. He got the job at Miami, and he immediately went out and he recruited a difference-making quarterback. If they don't have the Eric King last year, they don't win 8 games. They probably win 5 games.
Yes, I believe they win 8 games with Nicosia. I saw what Nicosia did against Nicosia.
No way.
Nicosia almost. Hold on, because I for some reason I don't know what a lot of these guys beef is with Nicosia, but Nicosia had a good record. At any time, he never really got the trust of the coaches for whatever reason. I thought it was from that little incident he had with the kicker girlfriend, but hey, who's to say why it seems like they run him out the program? But that kid never really was given trust or the keys or any confidence to really go out there and be what he could be. We'll never know what he could have amounted to, because they never really put any full trust in him, and it seemed like they never wanted to let him see the field. But Nicosia is gone now. So
I don't believe they win 8 games with Nicosia. I don't believe that would have happened. I mean, Nicosia couldn't beat out Nicosia couldn't beat out Jaron Williams, who can't win the job at South Florida. And Nicosia's probably going to end up at FIU, Steve.
I don't care where he ends up at. I believe he probably could have, if they would have let him play. I believe he was better than Jared Williams from what I've seen on the field out of him. From the balls he threw coming back from 21 down against Oklahoma State, the kid wasn't that bad. He brought us back against Florida State. He brought us back against from 20-something down against Virginia Tech on the road, and Manny defense blew it. Don't forget some of the great things the kid did coming in terrible circumstances. But Nicosia is gone now. Let's not bash a kid who gave his all, had a hurricane tattoo on him, and for whatever reasons, he's not with the program. But for the most part, while he was there, other than that one incident, and he never went to jail, he never was charged with anything. So let's not tarnish the kid's reputation. But let's get back to what Lashley is doing, since you brought up Lashley. Lashley is able to recruit, right? He got his quarterback. You say that, right? He brought in Eric King. Okay. Eric King still got his head kicked in like the rest of our quarterbacks did by Clemson. Eric King still was the quarterback against UNC when he got his head kicked in by them.
So it really wasn't no big. I don't see nothing different that the rest of the quarterbacks did. That's my opinion. So let's move back to Manny. Manny is not recruiting. He's not. He's been here 6 years, and you still got the same excuse for that defense. We don't have the talent. That is a coach not being able to get players into his system problem. And if we're
can you imagine, Steve? Can you imagine what it would be like without all the transfers the last couple of years?
Well, that's Manny's problem, because that's a Manny problem. He ain't good enough to get kids to come play for him. I don't care where they get kids from. He needs to be able to get what we need to win. And if he can't do it, we got a problem.
Well, that's the thing, and that's why it was very unfair to him, in my opinion, that he was put in this job, because he's never been that kind of recruiter at any point in his coaching career. So why suddenly would he become a head coach and be that type of recruiter? It's it just was not a likely thing to happen.
Gary, if you understand that, he's not a great recruiter. He's not developing. So why in the world are we still defending him, running this program, and being able to run the offense, the whole team, and the defense?
I don't know that anybody's defending him. I think everyone's just praying and hoping that it comes together for him here in year 3. Because year 1 was a total disaster, and year 2 really was only marginally better, and it was only because of the level of competition, because of the 4 decent teams we played, we lost 3 of the 4 games. So, I think everyone's just hoping that this year will be better, Steve. I don't think anyone's defending anything.
Look. I hope this year will be better, too. I'm always hoping that we win the title. In spite of Manny, I hope. What I wish would happen, the people who cover this program would be, get more truthful with the people in charge. It seems like when I watch or listen to anything, it's like everybody is stepping on hands and needles, and they're scared to ask the tough questions.
Not us.
Comes out there.
Not us.
Okay.
Don't include us in that. We stuck our neck out from the minute that this whole thing happened, and we said, "Whoa!" We knew, we knew that this was going to be tough.
Look. I got some questions you could ask him when you see him. Ask him, what is he doing to try to beat Alabama, or not to get blown out and get embarrassed again? What is his plans this summer to do that? Ask him why is Avery Huff still 211 pounds in his 3rd year coming out of St. Thomas Aquinas weighing 200 pounds. Ask him that. Do he go in the weight room and pay attention to what's going on? Is he looking at, what are they doing? Do he knows what a team's supposed to look like? That's the easiest thing to do, pass the eyeball test. Yeah. You just look intimidating. That's a start. You don't have to be a rocket science of a coach. You don't have to know all the X's and O's to get the team to look like they can kick somebody's butt. That's the easiest part. And you got so much time in the off season to do that. Why do we want to play with these tiny? Why every time we get a big linebacker, we moving them to defensive end? Can you ask him that? Is that his philosophy? Like the kid out of Van Alstyne. Did they move him to DN? Or are they going to let him play middle linebacker?
Who are you talking about?
The kid who we got from Van Alstyne.
Thomas Davis. Last I heard they were going to have him play defensive end. I don't know. He's not here yet, so I don't know.
It's a copycat league. Don't we hear that all the time? Alabama not playing football with damn teeny bopper linebackers. Those guys look like monsters. That's why we can't stop the run. We keep trying to. If these guys can run, why do we keep moving these guys to DN? We should be moving some of them defensive ends who can run and got some size back to linebacker.
Well,
unless we got linebackers who can play already.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there continue to be a lot of issues, and I think right now you just got to hope that they can pull. It's not hopeless on defense. I think when you got to get everybody back, and you got to hope a few guys up in the front seven step up, and that they could just be representative on defense, so that and let the offense be great, which I think it will be, and they should be able to win 9 games this year.
Well, you guys got to be honest, man. You guys got to be tough with
Steve, we are as tough as it gets, man. We're almost too tough. Let me tell you something, because there's a lot of people.
No.
Oh yeah, Steve. There's a lot of your contemporaries out there that want us to be pumpers all the time, and there's a few of them on our message board that if you're not pumping it 100% of the time, they get annoyed. And it's like we try to find the balance, but we don't blow smoke up people's butts. Like, we tell it like it is, and there's nothing we want more than to tell you guys every day this team's about to be Alabama. Like, that's what we want.
No. We know you don't have to lie to us saying they're going to beat Alabama, but we know people who watch this team and been following, like I done told you 100 times. I've been following this team since '83, since they jumped on the radar, because I stayed in the same cross from Carver Junior High. I went to Carver in 7th grade, and I stayed in the same complexes with Rodney Bellinger. And Reggie Sutton was married to my cousin. And I graduated. I was classmates and played with Robert Bailey at South Ridge till I quit my junior year.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew a lot of them boys who went there. I went to middle school with Randall Hill out to Richmond Junior High. And Willis, I know a lot of them guys. And, they wasn't – I didn't see them guys as superstars, but the coaches there developed them. Robert Bailey wasn't the biggest guy coming out of high school. We sat right next to each other in grammar class. Mr. Hallberg at South Ridge. He wasn't that big. These coaches are failing the program, and that's the bottom line. The strength coach, these guys going to get thrown around, because it don't look like they're doing enough squats, power cleans. They just don't look the part. And that's the easiest thing to do. You start by looking the part, then you go from there.
Yep.
And all these kids who this guy's recruiting can't all be terrible.
Well, they're not terrible. They're good players. It's just, if you're talking about getting to the next level and not just being, winning 7, 8, occasionally 9 games a year, you got to have difference makers. You got to have guys that change games. You got to have guys that make the difference. You got to be able to beat. You got to be able to beat North Carolina. You got to be able to compete with Clemson every now and then. Like, you just got to be better than what we've been. That's all, Steve. And that takes difference-making players.
Florida State beat North Carolina last year. And
I understand.
We let North Carolina come in. This is what I say about coaching. Where's his pride? Where's his self-respect? You let Matt Brown. Matt Brown was the first coach to fire you. Matt Brown told him, get out. You suck. Your running game suck. Didn't even let him back on the bus. Then you let this guy beat you. He got the job at North Carolina at the same time Manny got the job at Miami. Matt Brown done beat him twice. But the one that is worse, he let him stop him from playing in a bowl game on his home field. How is this? How can we blame this on players when the coach don't have any heart?
Steve, I understand, man. All you can do is just move on to the next season. I mean, seriously, that's all you can do. Move on to the next season. We already know that this is not a perfect storm here. We know that.
My point to you, Gary, I'm gonna stop, because I just want you to stop with we don't have the talent first thing out of your mouth. Start with
we don't. Well, we don't. We don't have.
Ain't no way Packy should be. We ain't gonna get him because we don't have the leadership to consistently bring in top talent. The kids we get, God bless them, they come to Miami because of their parents, off of whatever ties? Are they just in love with the city? But if these kids got any sense, they're not coming there to get developed. If that's what you're telling me.
Well, I don't know if that's fair. I mean, some of them get developed, but I get your point, Steve. We don't need to debate that it's not good enough. It hasn't been good enough. Has not been good enough for a very long time. Like I said earlier, Miami can be Miami again. Miami can be Miami. Just got to get it right.
Gary, my problem, what really gets me, is if we're not going to start when we have our conversations about this team and start at the top and then work our way down to the bottom, that's what ticks me off. Because the top is the real main issue.
I understand, but you're not gonna, that's not changing anytime real soon. So you got to hope. You just got to hope it keeps progressively getting better.
It ain't gonna get better because if the
might not
don't get better, it's not gonna get better if Manny don't get better, Packy don't get better. Because if they don't show that they can coach these kids up that they got, how are they going to convince other kids who's trying to get to the league in 3 years?
Steve, in the last, 15 months, he's turned over 7 of the 10 staff positions on the team. So he's trying. He's trying to get it right. We'll see what happens. All right, man. Hey, thank you so much for being part of the show, and we'll talk to you down the road here.
Alabama turnover coaches every year, too.
I understand. But,
better coaches because they get hired.
But, we'll see how these guys do. The offensive guys he brought in last year did a good job. Now we'll see how these defensive guys do this year. All right, Steve, thanks for being part of the show, man. Appreciate you.
One more, please.
Go ahead.
What did you see out of special teams? I'm sorry. You know I usually don't go this long, but I know this is probably the last show for a while. What did you see out of special teams over the whole spring? Because our special teams wasn't that great. It don't seem like last year, it don't seem like we tried to run. We don't set no wedges.
Well, now, I agree the return teams underachieve. The coverage teams, it doesn't matter because you got a punter that kicks it out of the stadium, and you had a kicker that put almost every kickoff in the end zone. The return teams have underachieved. I think a big reason for that is our lack of talent at DB and tight end and linebacker, and I think that's getting a little better right now. I think some of these young freshmen this year, when you look at the Keyshawn Washingtons of the world, the James Williamses, are a couple guys that come to my mind, Cam Kinchins. You got a lot of young talent that's coming into the program right now that's going to be focused primarily on special teams, and I think you can hope that this year the special teams are a little better. All right, Steve, now I really got to let you go so other people can get on, man. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for being part of the show, man. Appreciate it. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. Hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go now to the 706. You are live on CaneSport Live. How you doing tonight?
What's up, Gary? It's your boy Sebastian, man. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. God, I wish I had better news for everybody all the time, but how can you argue? You can't argue with it. It's a little negative. You want to be positive. New season coming up, but I mean, listen, it is what it is. I mean, there's still areas that are challenged.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely sense that, but I'm interested to see how this off season going to go. I think we're probably 1 or 2 impact transfers on the defense side of the ball that would just give me some really, really optimism that we're going to be okay. I think on the offensive side of the ball, the problems that we had in relation to running the ball is still a concern, but as far as quarterback and receivers and the O-line, I feel a little bit encouraged in those particular areas. I think you probably said something along the line during the show, but I kind of feel like in those areas we're going to be a little bit better. Even tight end, I think tight end, we have some talent there. But on the defensive side of the ball, I think we're a linebacker and a defensive end impact players away from being a real top 15 team. But I will tell you my outlook for this season is if we can get through the season with 8 wins, possibly 9, and win a bowl game, I'll be pleased. I mean, I really would. I would be pleased. And as I look at last year, you take 2 games, we don't look horrible against North Carolina. We win the bowl game. We could almost say that was a successful season. So we made strides in the right direction. So, but that's what my 2 big concerns are. Impact players on the defensive side of the ball. What are your thoughts?
I don't think there are any. I really don't. I mean, Tyreek's got a chance. I shouldn't say that. Tyreek coming in, but he's just coming in as a transfer. But he's got a chance to be an impact guy, I think. But beyond that, I don't think we have impact players. I don't think any of the 3 safeties are what I would call impact players. They're okay players. They're gonna have good plays. They're gonna have bad plays. I'm watching Gervin Hall, who's now year 4. I mean, he was late getting to a deep ball the other day in the spring game. I mean, you just shake your head like, Jesus, like what the hell? Like, allows a 50-yard pass. I mean, like, I don't see the surefire play after play, down after down guys that can turn a game. So how do we win? You're going to have to be bend but don't break. You're going to have to try to force mistakes. Manny, I'm sure, is going to take chances. He's going to blitz a lot. He's going to try to disrupt plays, create turnovers, and try to do enough of that enough times in the game to allow the offense to be dominant. And we're going to have to win some games like, 40 to 35 or something. Like, that's just going to be a fact of life, I think.
I mean, but, I can live with that. But, the summer can get interesting. You never know which players will, decide to transfer or, spring ball is going to conclude, and some players, may not want to hit the pine and see an opportunity to kind of come and, I don't know if it's going to be a 1-year rental or a 2-year rental, and, lightning may strike in the bottle. So we just see how this offseason plays out. But I don't think if we don't get any additions on the defensive side of the ball, then I think great coaching is going to have to overcompensate, where we lack over in the talent area. So that's what I see. You were talking earlier that a lot of the top talent in South Florida is not looking at coming to Miami. I'm a little disappointed in that, but I feel like if we have a successful season, maybe you could keep 1 or 2 of those kids at home, and that would be success to me. We could do that. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Gary, if I could switch sports or whatnot, what happened to the basketball program this season?
Man, they had so many injuries. I mean, everything just fell apart on them.
Pause for a second. I mean, was there a fight on the team or whatnot? Because it seemed like everybody just left town. I mean,
it was guys not handling adversity really well. A lot of injuries. Which I think some trust broke down because of that with the training staff and things like that. And when a guy sprains his ankle, your best player sprains his ankle and misses the entire season, I mean, something's wrong. And, I think everything just went wrong, and they didn't have the depth to deal with it because of what had happened with the FBI the previous few years. So they're doing a good job right now. I think they're getting some decent players in the transfer portal, and I think they'll be a representative team next year and see where it goes from there. But, this year was really, really rough, no doubt about it.
Because I'm worried about the 2 kids that are testing the NBA market or whatnot. I don't think they're going.
They're not going to the NBA. They can't go. They're just playing. They're playing games with themselves. To be honest with you, they don't. There's not going to be any NBA interest in those 2 kids. I'll be shocked if they're not back next year.
Okay. Hey, Jared, I got this last question for you, and then you could just kind of put me on hold.
Yeah.
I mean, the state of the program right now, I mean, we've seen some encouraging signs as far as quarterback, receiver. So I can definitely see how we've attacked and tried to get better at places where we were really, really deficient. But as we go into this offseason right now, I'm going to be at the Alabama game. I don't expect us to win or whatnot. But as I look through the season, as you look through the offseason, as from here to when we play our first game, what are maybe just 1 or 2 things we can do to just be a better football team going into the fall. And you can just put me on hold. There's 1, 2, or 3 things that we can do that would make us a better football team going into the fall. I can give you 2 things, and then I want to hear your thoughts on it. But
well, I'm going to give you on.
I think
go ahead. Give me your 2 first.
I was going to say my 2 things is we don't need no fudgery. We don't need no kids getting into off-field stuff or things that suspended or arrest or anything like that. That's number 1. And then my second thing is I really think all of our nicked up players got to get healthy. And those are just my 2 things. I'm interested in what you're going to say.
All right, and I think they will. I think they will. The first thing I would say, let me give you one on each side of the ball. Offensively, I would say that the O-line has got to get better at run blocking. They got to get better at run blocking. They got to get more consistent. We've got the running backs to get it done. I thought they were woefully inconsistent last year. We had so many 3rd and short plays blow up because of poor blocking. And I think that the O-line has got to get better in run blocking. So that's what I'll say on the offensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball, I think you got to have 1 or 2 of these defensive linemen got to step up. Got to find somehow, some way to get better in the next 3 months. They live in the weight room, get stronger, get more athletic, and come back for fall camp in August a better player than you left spring practice. Because right now, to me, it's not good enough. So those are the 2 things I would throw out.
Hey, Gary,
all right,
Sebastian.
Hey,
Gary, yep. I definitely appreciate it. You talk about run blocking. I don't know about run blocking in fall camp. We have to run the ball in fall camp. You have to have an attitude to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I just haven't seen that in the last couple of years. I think we have tackles that can help us out in the passing game, but we need to develop an attitude of running the ball. Because I will tell you this right now, 2 games is going to be won this year, whether or not you can run the ball on 3rd and 2.
Yep, I agree. I think in the spring they were protecting the running backs because they're short on numbers.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, keep it on hold, man. Good show, man.
But that'll be fixed for the fall, and hopefully they'll be able to run the ball more and get better at it. And yeah, you're absolutely right. They really struggled on 3rd and short last year, so hopefully it'll be better this year. All right, Sebastian, thanks for being part of the show, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go out to the 904. You're live on CaneSport Live. How you doing tonight?
How you doing, Gary? What's going on, man? That's one from Jefferson. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I'm listening to the show. I know it ain't a lot going on other than the spring game, but it's just I think I'm a little more optimistic about the defense than you are. But there's one thing that that needs to happen before anything can be righted and we can be a good team and the corner can be turned. Okay, I've been going through reports on different websites, people that follow the team for the whole spring. And the narrative is our best 4 receivers are Rambo, Keyshawn Smith, Mike Harley, and Restrepo. Okay, those are our best 4 receivers. Now, when the season comes and we roll out there against Alabama and whoever is after that, if I see a whole bunch of Mark Pope, then I'll know exactly what the real problem is. If I see a lot of that, knowing that I watch Keyshawn Smith and Restrepo and Rambo do things that our receivers, I haven't seen them do since Amon Richards. I watch them do these little things that a receiver does. Wiggins and Pope aren't natural receivers. They may be athletes, but they're not natural receivers. So if I see them playing a lot, and the other guys that are better than them on the bench, I'll know, again, what our problem is. On to the defense. Okay, you got, what I got? Ivy, and you got Carter,
and you got McLeod, and you got Jennings. Okay. Now, we saw how much they played last year. They didn't do a very good job. Our defense, we have better defensive players, and this is my issue with Manny. We have better defensive players than those guys in those positions. For some reason, those guys continue to get snaps just like Pope and Wiggins on the offensive side. Until Manny starts playing the best players, regardless of if we got somebody in the program affiliated with them or if they're older, until he starts playing the best players, we're never going to turn the corner. We're not going to turn the corner. We just can't do it. It's kind of evident.
Well,
and I don't want to see it, because if I see it,
I think this year that he's going to have some tough decisions to make in that regard. You know, I think that I look in particular at safety. I mean, they did a great recruiting job at safety in the last year or so. You got Avante Williams sitting there who looks very good to me. I'm expecting James Williams to be, pretty good. I like what I see of Cam Kinchins. So that's three freshmen right there who are all looking pretty good to me. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the spring game, but Keyshawn Washington also jumped off the field. So that's four freshman safeties, and it's kind of over-recruiting at that position, to be honest with you. But that's four freshman safeties that, to me, look like they can challenge Gervin Hall and Bubba Bolden.
Okay. So the question is, are those guys who you feel like can challenge and are athletically as good or better than the guys you're talking about, are they going to play? Are they going to get snapped? Because it's a two-layered thing. What happens is if you play those younger players, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to take their lumps. They're going to make mistakes. But what will happen is next year when they've made their bumps and bruises, they'll be better than they were if you played the older guys and then next year was their first year playing. So but
the problem is this: they can't coach like that because they got to win now, or else they're not going to be there to coach those guys in the future. And if those guys are making mistakes in practice and they don't know what they're doing, they're not going to feel comfortable having them out there.
You're right about that. You're right. They have to do that. But here's the issue: why would you have a guy out there who knows where to go, who knows the plays, who can diagnose everything he needs to diagnose, but when he has to make the play, he can't make it anyway. He can't make the play regardless. Like
point well taken. Point well taken. But I don't think that's the case with these guys. Like, I don't think Gervin Hall is physically incapable of making plays.
No.
He just screws up enough of them that it becomes a little bit of a problem at times. But
But if you can see a younger guy who pops off the screen, like I honestly believe we shouldn't play a whole bunch of linebackers. We should play like our smaller guys like Smith and Frierson and Cave is pretty. I'm not Cave, but Flagg is pretty good. But what I'm saying to you is, if we see a lot of the older guys who really aren't as good as like what we were talking about earlier about the talent in the program, I believe the talent is in the program. I believe they're just younger. I believe that the younger players are probably better than these older players. I just want to see Manny play those guys. But the receivers, I want you to watch. Now, okay, do you agree that the four guys I named are better than Pope and Wiggins? Do you agree?
I think the problem with Pope and Wiggins is their bad plays. I think they're capable of making good plays. I do. I just think that the problem is you don't get the consistency. And until somebody proves that they're going to be more consistent and go out there and make better plays, I don't think the coaches are going to give up on them.
Okay, so is Mark Pope and Wiggins a better receiver than Keyshawn Smith is?
I would like to see Keyshawn Smith get a chance to be better than them. I'm with you. That hasn't happened yet. I got to believe it's going to happen this year. I would like to see him get a chance to be better.
That's all I want to see. I want to see those players. I saw Keyshawn Smith make a move in the spring game and do little things that Pope and Wiggins would never do. I watched Restrepo make a catch in the corner of the end zone. I was like, dang, that's what a receiver's supposed to look like. That's what they're supposed to do. Well, I saw Rambo do stuff that you're supposed to do as a receiver. If there's a 50-50 ball, if there's any contact, if there's any kind of not wide open, what do you think is going to happen with the other two guys we're talking about? Tell me what's going to happen. They're going to drop the ball. If there's any kind of contact, they're going to drop it. And you know I'm right. Times they drop the ball even with, like, the ball to Wiggins. He caught through him. He got a perfect ball thrown to him. What happened when he was going down? I just stripped him, right?
Yep.
That's a big play in a game. That's a big play in a football game. That's the difference between a touchdown and a punt. That's the difference between a touchdown and a punt. That, right there. And that's how you lose football games. But I'm not going to hold you up all night. I just wanted to say that to you, so I wanted somebody to – I know I'm not crazy when I'm looking at this. I've been watching football for a long time, and I know when it looks like guys have it and guys don't have it. These guys that he keeps rolling out there, they don't have it. They never will have it. Play your best players, period. I'm good, Gary. Have a good night, man.
All right, man. Thanks for being part of the show.
Okay.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed our spring recap, and I think we covered a lot of turf. So we go into off-season workouts now, and you got the month of May, June, July for the team to work with David Feely, work on their own. They get some time with the coaches and try to get better and get ready for fall camp. Obviously, a big thing in that time frame will be De'Ara King and his rehab, so we'll be all over that for you. And then May will be setting the stage for recruiting. That's going to be just absolutely insane in the month of June, and we'll be covering that, balls to the wall for you, no question, in the month of June. July, we'll start setting the table for fall camp. It'll be a recruiting dead period, so there won't be a lot of recruiting activity in that month. The team will be really starting to get focused in and getting ready for fall camp. I imagine the coaches will take a few weeks vacation in there somewhere. And then we'll get into August in fall camp, and then before we know it, we'll be going to Atlanta for the Alabama game. So it's going to come quick. It's going to be exciting. I think this year is going to be very interesting for all of us to follow. The team is going to be good. The question is it going to be good enough? Good enough to just not be 8-4, something like that again, and be stuck in the middle. And I think that's going to be tough without a dominant defense. But maybe the offense will be good enough that they can steal a couple games again this year that they normally might have lost. And maybe they somehow get to Charlotte and get to take a shot at Clemson. We'll see what happens. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for being part of the show tonight. And we probably will not have another CaneSport Live until we get into August. But we'll do some periodic podcasts and things on the website, so keep your eyes open for that. And of course, you've got the message boards every day, and we'll be there for you to answer any questions and keep you updated on everything there as well. So thank you to everybody for listening tonight. Until next time, I'll say goodbye, everybody.